Right, our last presentation is from Darryl, Purdie, and Graeme from Central Queensland University and Queensland Fire Emergency Services. The title of the presentation is Moving Fire and Emergency Response into the Future with Online to Scale Cloud-Based Platforms, providing scale plans for both PCBUs and emergency services. Central Queensland University uses an online concept safety systems platform to scale floor plans to enable the user to identify and train in the relevant first response equipment, thereby increasing familiarization and response efficiency in an emergency situation. Further enhancements to the system was developed to allow emergency services to access the platform in real-time emergency event location. Darryl and Graeme will share the platform and its future potential to assist compliance obligations whilst increasing responsive effectiveness by emergency services. Please welcome Darryl and Graeme.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for taking the time to come along to this little presentation today. I'll be doing the first part of the presentation and then I'll be calling on Graeme to come up and do his part. As mentioned, we talk about online cloud-based platforms from our fire and emergency planning system. That's me and that's Graeme. So just a little bit first about me and Central Queensland University. Starting with a little bit about me, I've been 10 years working as a safety professional across both the university and TAFE sector, primarily as fire safety advisor, general safety, and I worked for a while in rehabilitation as well. I'm 32 years operational auxiliary firefighter with Queensland Fire and Emergency Services and National Medal, Distinguished Service Medal recipient, and also an Australia Day Medal that I received for my work with fire care. I've always had a passion for fire and emergency stuff, and I think some of the stuff we've been doing over the last couple of years has seen some really positive changes come forward for our university and across the whole sector. Our university, it's a fairly diverse area, a very large area. It's the largest footprint for a regional university in Australia. We have universities or study hubs at every state except the Northern Territory and Tasmania. So as you can imagine, to try and maintain the reporting and the training and the fire evacuation plan itself is a very hard goal to achieve. So it's a story of a journey from how we first started our partnership with Concept Fire Safety Systems. Since 2009, CQU have contracted Locatrix, formerly Concept Safety, to host our online training platform, including the emergency plans and records to meet our Queensland fire and emergency legislation. All our campuses across Australia comply to the Queensland building fire safety regs. They're the strictest, so the people that don't need a certain level across the rest of the states comply with the Queensland. It's, as I said previously, logistically just about impossible to maintain things like hard copy fire plans and stuff. We have our diagrams and everything on the wall, so this satisfies our compliance needs. The 2014 merger with Central Queensland Institute of TAFE created Queensland's first dual sector university and also merged with Campus Management Services. They were the building owners, growing the total number of buildings or locations to 22 with a total of 244 separate buildings, requiring a cohesive approach to the provision of individual fire safety training and emergency planning. So we're satisfied with the way we're going with our compliance using this platform, but now we're going above and beyond compliance. As well as the online fire and emergency training, it's a great repository for all our records and storage, which I'll talk more about in a moment. We also include now research induction for all our higher ed students in the research space. We have inductions now for students just doing practical workspace and a general student induction that can be accessed as a classroom tool or by the students themselves. Our contractors, it's a one point of truth for all our contractors as well, where any contractors are required to work on our site are required to do that induction. It now includes just general safety information for all our staff and students, and we also have people that access our venues. We can do an induction for them as well. So there's a little bit here. I'm just going to step aside from the platform for a minute and just run through a brief video that actually shows some of the initiatives on the FEP, on the fire plan itself, or how it all works.
The original fire evacuation plan we started with a few years ago with concept safety has evolved a long way from just being a fire evacuation plan alone. We've now included a whole range of inductions for students, contractors, our research people, and those students working in practical workspaces. I'll quickly show you the contractors. They're required to complete this if they're going to be working on a CQ University campus. They work through the different headings, and right at the very end there's a contractor quiz. And that allows us to generate a report to know which contractors have done it and those that haven't. I'd also like to take you into, I'll go to the Rockhampton Northside campus because that's where I work. So I just want to do a little bit on reporting and how do we find our fire wardens and our ECO. So I'll go to the Northside campus, and as you'll see, on Northside, I'll go to building 19 because that's where I'm situated. And we can look at the reporting tab. And we'll go into assessment reports. And from this area here, we can tell who's done the general and first response training, and as well as the ECO training. So we can just pick out the general first response, and I'll put those people that passed, because sometimes individuals may have a couple of attempts. So we hit update, and that'll tell us that there's 93 people who have completed the general and first response training for our building. And to get the emergency control organisation, it's just a matter of doing the same thing, hitting update, and it tells me that 7 of our staff are trained fire wardens. Another one I'd like to be able to show you is the document currency report. This tells us, it gives us a record of our fire evacuation practice or lockdown. We can go to a single building, which I'll do for the purpose of this demonstration, or we can run the entire organisation. And at a glance, it'll tell you that we are compliant with our annual evacuation. The last one was completed on the 29th of the 4th this year. To enable us to keep track of our ECO members across such a large organisation, we can simply choose the building we like. In this case, it's building 19. Go to premises information, and that'll tell us who our chief warden is, our wardens, our first aid people for this building. We can also filter that to the entire organisation or any building within that organisation if we require. Another useful innovation is the compliance dashboard, utilising a traffic light system. Red being a compliance fail, amber a warning of potential fail, and green, where we like to be, is fully compliant. Quite a useful innovation that'll be, once refined, will be usable to the PCBU and the higher exec, so at a glance they'll be able to see how we're tracking. Thanks for allowing me the time to run through some of the innovations within our FEP. I'll now return to the remainder of our presentation.
Okay, so we're satisfied that we're reaching compliance using the FEP platform. Are we satisfied? Are we finished? No, we're not. In 2017, CQU held a joint exercise involving Queensland Ambulance Service, Queensland Police Service and our paramedic students. As we staged the exercise, we identified levels that AMBOs, fireys could access. If they only had the plans, they could access the plans before they arrived on site. We discussed the possibility of using the online FEP as a resource for emergency responders with senior QPS, Queensland Police Service and Queensland Ambulance Service, and they loved it. So, as I wear two hats, when I'm not doing my work at the university, I'm running around the red truck still, believe it or not. And I quite often think, as an emergency responder, what sort of things would we need on the way to, if we're going to a big job, say at one of the university, there's a fire situated at one of our campuses. And I asked myself, from a university perspective, what's our duty as a public space to ensure remote and digital access to information that is available to assist our emergency response? What if providing this information to reduce confusion, improve response time and save lives in a real event? How would that look? What if you're able to, en route to the incident, be able to access the building plans in real scale to identify the best routes to gain access to the incident or the injured person? Or in the event of an armed intruder, having live CCTV to be able to provide to the responding police to see what was going on inside those buildings. And from a fiery perspective, attending on our way, knowing where the nearest hydrants were, the standpipes, what resources were available within that building. The next part of this presentation is from Graeme. We'll be talking more about the Emergency Services platform. And just a little bit about Graeme. Graeme served as a firefighter for more than 40 years, retiring the position of Director of Operation Performance Improvement in 2016. As a firefighter, he's been burnt several times, had ceilings fall down around him, he's fallen into gullies and through burnt out floors. He's been abused, shot at, spat at, praised and thanked, but not all at the same incident. He's rescued everything from small puppies to major incidents involving road crash rescue and house fires. He led a convoy of Queensland firefighters in New South Wales to help that state's firefighters and was a project leader investigating fire safety throughout Queensland after the tragic deaths of 15 people resulting from the Childers Palace backpackers fire. He was Brisbane City's fire commander for 6 years, chair of the Australasian Fire and Emergency Services Built Environment Committee for 10, and executive manager of Queensland Fire Safety for 12, and a director and vice president of the Fire Protection Association of Australia for 14 years. And he's also led the team that develops Queensland's new fire and evacuation legislation. And he has survived to tell you today about the Locatrix Emergency Services platform that helps protect life, property and the environment, and in particular for universities, their staff, for staff and students. I'd like to introduce Mr. Graeme Thom to the platform.
Thank you, Darryl. That's the clicker, mate. Which one's forward? That one? Yep. Thank you. I don't know about you, but yesterday, for that keynote opening by Brant, I really, really enjoyed it. Now, that's not to say that I didn't really like Dr. Ian Dunnican's speech as well. In fact, I liked that so much that I couldn't sleep last night thinking about what he had said. But what Brant said was quite critical to what I'm about to say. In fact, with Brant's permission, I'd like to open this part of the talk and also close it. Grant said two critical things from my perspective, or from our perspective. The first was that to help him achieve the things that he had achieved, to meet the challenges that he was faced with, and my God, there was a lot of challenges there, wasn't there? To help him do that, and also to protect his reputation, to enhance and protect his reputation, he needed two things. The first thing was the right state of mind. And the second thing was the best technology available. And that's what myself and Darryl have been talking about, those two concepts to bring forward the best outcome. I'm going to make a wild assumption here that everybody in this room already has the right state of mind, because you're all leaders in your field and you're here at this particular conference. For me, as Darryl said, my state of mind started when I joined the Brisbane Metropolitan Fire Brigade over 40 years ago. And when I made that commitment, when I made that oath, which is outlined under the Fire and Rescue Act, the Fire Brigades Act of 1964 as it was then, what that asked us to do, and Darryl has done the same, is it said we will commit ourselves to protecting life, property and the environment from the uncontrolled ravages of fire and other emergencies. Now, the people in this room, you actually go broader than that and do much more than that. But for us as firefighters, it was slightly more confined. One of the things that is not part of that oath, but I believe is part of the need for each of us in this room to also protect, is to protect the organisational reputation of each of the universities, of each of the organisations that you here represent. In addition to that, equally as important as that, is that you need to be protecting your reputation, because by protecting your reputation, you protect your organisation's reputation. Without that, none of us get employed and we don't teach the students and don't have the higher levels of education. So, for me, this was brought home about the responsibility and the reputation of an organisation, in particular, as Darryl mentioned, after the Childers incident. And the Childers incident had 15 young people, 15 young backpackers, that ended up dying in the Childers Palace backpackers fire. And I found myself in 2006 sitting in a coroner's. It was 2000 that the event occurred. In 2006 the coronial occurred. I've been in a number of coronials subsequent to that, and none of them are good. For this particular one, there were 6 sets of barristers that grilled me on behalf of each of the people that they were representing, or the groups that they were representing. They were representing the families of the 15 people that died, the young people that died in that particular incident. They were representing the local council, they were representing the owners of the building, the occupiers of the building, the fire alarm company and some others. The other one that was asking lots of questions was the council assisting the coroner. And he could ask questions that were equally as incisive as each of those sets of barristers. So I spent a number of hours sitting on the stand defending what we had done as an organisation. As you, if you were in a similar position, and some of you may already have been there and done this, but you too might have to defend your organisation. I'll come to that a little bit more in a moment because it's quite a critical issue. The 15 young people, when they died, the fire occurred at about 12 o'clock in the morning. Now this was in 2000. Now I don't know whether all of you remember this, but in 2000, not everybody had a mobile phone. But what they did have in the town of Childers was internet cafes. So when the fire occurred, the majority of the backpackers immediately went into the internet cafes, sent messages home, and because they'd come from about 12 countries from around the world, the fire occurring at 12 o'clock at night, just past midnight, by 4:30 in the morning I was being contacted by my commissioner, my chief commissioner at the time, who had been contacted by the Premier, who had been contacted by the Prime Minister. It had happened that quickly with the internet cafes. Today, the speed of that information transfer would occur even more instantaneously than it did back then. So we put together a range of recommendations, and I sat in that particular coronial inquest. After those barristers had been through and grilled me for those many hours, the coroner then wrapped it all up by asking me 2 questions. He said, "Mr. Thom, could your organisation have done anything more to prevent that incident from occurring? And could you have put the fire out any better than you did?" Now, as I said before, I was there in my mind to defend the organisation. I'd done a fairly good job with all of those sets of barristers. And in defending the organisation, I made a critical mistake, and I passed this on for what it's worth. I defended the organisation. Now, every fire can be fought better. Every organisation can do better to prepare for the critical incident. So I started to dissemble. I started to waffle. He picked up on it really, really quick, and he interrupted me and said, "Stop, Mr. Thom, just give me an answer." And so my answer was, yes, we could have done better. So the critical learning out of that for me, and maybe for you, is this: the time to defend your reputation individually and the time to defend your organisation's reputation is before the event. Because when you get into the coronial, or when you get into a court or an inquest, what's your purpose for being there? There's two reasons that you're there in that court. Anybody want to have a stab? The first one is to assist the court to make a decision. That's it. The second one is to tell the truth, not to defend your organisation. The court simply wants you to assist the court and to tell the truth. So those two critical things about the correct frame of mind and the best technology, for me, brings it to why I'm here today. I was introduced as being with the QFES. I'm actually not with the QFES. I was with them for 41 years. I'm still a firefighter in my heart and my head. But I'm actually an advisor to the Locatrix board. Why? Because I believe passionately in what they're doing, and what they're doing is protecting life, property, and the environment, and assisting to protect the reputation of organisations such as yours. So let's just quickly run through an incident. This is CQ's location in central Queensland, Rockhampton. Up there you can see by the Norman Gardens, you can see the university, and you can see two fire stations. The reason we've got two fire stations there is to point out to you that firefighters rotate through shifts, and the nearest attending fire service may not be the one that actually attends your university. They may be away at another incident, or something else may be occurring, and it could be a second or a third down the line fire station that's attending. But on this occasion, we've got two fire appliances attending this particular fire. Once those fire appliances arrive, as you can see in the top right-hand corner on that slide, you can see where the actual fire is located on this site. Now, Locatrix provide a system called the Emergency Services Platform, which is a live system which, in combination with Plan Safe that Darryl went through and CQ uses, Locatrix also provides this Emergency Services Platform, which is all of the data that they've got about each of these buildings and these locations that they've collected and collated, and with the owners of these premises, they will give it all to the fire services, give it to police, fire, ambulance, and other emergency services to use en route to the incident and while they are at the incident. For me, that's brilliant. Part of the reason it's brilliant is because many of you may have heard something called the fog of war. For first responding officers, when they first get to an incident, there is so much data and information coming in that anything that will help them to cut through the dross and make decisions helps them out. So there we have the location that they're getting to on the actual university campus. Let me get that one. There we go. The incident that we've got here, a number of people trapped on the 4th floor of this particular building, and it's burning. I'm going to go through this reasonably quickly, but what you've got there is those two fire appliances turning up. The alarm would have gone to the fire brigade and also through to the university, and all of you, I think, will be familiar with that process at your own universities. The university will respond their own people to the incident. They will meet with the fire service people, and the incident will progress. On this particular scenario, we're running it through that there are multiple injuries and deaths occurring at this particular incident. Because of that, down the bottom there in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that an incident control point has been set up. Go back to what I said before, and the information is getting out already. Mobile phones. Information is going around the world now. Why is it going around the world now? Because almost all of your universities, if not all of them, have got international students. That information at this point in time is now going right throughout the world to all of the mums and dads and all of the key people in each of those countries, with their embassies being in Australia. Information is being demanded about what's going on at that incident. Because there are people potentially injured and or dying in this particular incident as the information is flowing through, it will ramp up within the Fire and Emergency Services to Assistant Commissioner of Police and Fire and other emergency services, and undoubtedly in your organisations it will ramp up to the Vice-Chancellor level. What's critical here, and having been through this a number of times, is the mums and dads in Australia and overseas want accurate, unified information. It's critical for this kind of a process that the police, fire and the Vice-Chancellor are giving to the media and giving to the parents, sometimes via the media, unified information. If that doesn't occur, it is chaos and catastrophic for those parents in particular. So that's why this live system that Locatrix provides for on-site, on-demand information is critical both to the university kind of organisations, emergency service organisations, media and the parents. Many of you, if not all of you, will have heard of the Swiss cheese model of risk management. All of those layers of safety that you would look at, and I won't go into all of them, but the presentation will be available afterwards, and there's a number of people that you can speak to afterwards. That Swiss cheese model, if you follow through all of those, including having the right state of mind and the best technology, you minimise, if not negate, that actual incident occurring. It only takes one of those, and only one part of one of those, to be out of alignment, and you have the Swiss cheese model, and you have a major incident that you're trying to avoid. So, to finish up, most people, most organisations have data, they have information, they have knowledge. This presentation hopefully takes it into that next step, which is saying that when you combine that, when you get knowledge and information and you share it, you get wisdom. And with the wisdom, you get that correct state of mind and you get the correct technology to achieve the outcomes. Thank you. If you have any questions, by all means.
Thanks for that, very interesting. I'm Tim Butler from the ANU. I'm also in the Rural Fire Service in New South Wales. This looks like a really useful tool, but it strikes me that it perhaps needs to be rolled out more at the local government level rather than individual universities. I mean, it would need to then integrate with the existing fire management procedures that the fire systems and the fire services have. Can you comment on that in any way? Sure.
One of the areas, and my colleague Andre may be able to add a little bit more as well. For example, in the state of California, the local council, what they call their equivalent of a local council, which is massive, they are currently engaged with Locatrix, employing that system in their local government, which then also assists all of the other emergency services as well. And yes, that would be great to have that as a top-down process, but it's a 360-degree process where it's top-down from state, federal government, local government, but also sideways through all of the key stakeholders that could use it as well, like universities. Does that answer that? Yeah.
I'm Jerry from ANU as well. Just one thing I just noticed with the location of the building that was had the fire. We're recently undergoing a bit of campus planning and construction, and those things have caused redirections of routes and all those sort of things. So, how quickly can that information be passed on to emergency services? I mean, we do it through other means. But is that something that you guys have considered?
I'll make a quick, Jeremy, was it?
Jerry, yeah. Jerry.
Make a quick comment on that. I'm going to make a personal comment as well. My daughter's just got her PhD from ANU, so yay for that. Thank you. She'll be pleased to know that. Yes, that's a critical issue. The Plan Safe system and the Plan Studio system that Locatrix uses, it's a very quick, very immediate automatic upload system that if you're doing renovations, Locatrix can have a team come in, and as you're doing your renovations and when you've finished your renovations, they will come in and through the mapping system, the live mapping system, if you're moving a wall or moving a fire extinguisher or hydrant, as you're doing it and you've asked them in, they will change it on their system on site. It'll automatically go up and upload everything, and it will come back and upload everything to all of the people in your university so that they've got the change occurring right there. And then when you've finished your renovations, same thing again.
Thanks. It does look like a great system, but one of my concerns is the ability to use it and the training of the individuals who are actually driving to the site, and how you update their skills in being able to get the data they need at the time. Is it a difficult system to navigate? Is it something that the individual brigades needed to get a training session on, or?
I'll let Darryl talk about it from the actual plan safe side, which is the organisational defence side, getting ready for an incident. And I like that Helen before, or the lady just before, that said that when they go on shift, when those aircraft carrier sailors go on shift, they prepare for the worst scenario on every shift. And I think that's what we need to do, and that's what you do by preparing all of your safety stuff before an incident. But I'll let Darryl answer the first part, and then maybe myself or Andre answer the second.
So just to clarify, you're talking about the responding emergency services people? Yep. Well, I think there's
So on the emergency services portal that we provide to the first responders, and I'm happy to run you through it afterwards. We didn't get time to include it as a demo here, so that is very straightforward. It's literally 3 clicks getting to the floor plan of the actual building, down to the level of the building, and it's like using Google Maps. If you think about Google Maps for indoors, in a secure environment that's been used for the fire services and only accessible, or for the first responders for that matter, that's the way to use it. There's no training required on that one, not even for the Plan Studio version that you asked before. So we have firefighters going on site using that to make updates to the drafting software required on that one. So it is very low touch, and no offense to anyone, but we kept the technical threshold quite low on that one.
Oh, yep, sorry. 2, yeah.
Thank you. Darryl, just wondering about the training component. What are the retraining schedules, and do your advice or experience with meeting the six monthly skills retention activities?
Yeah, under the Queensland Building Fire regulations, it's annual training for all building occupants, annual evacuation training, or live evacuation training, and the fire warden's ECO annual as well. So they do it all online, and then we can gather the reports to make sure they're being done. A reminder sent from the concept people leading up to the anniversary of their training again, so to ensure that it's rolled on. Yeah, does that answer your question, or? Australian Standard 3745. Yeah, managing emergencies and facilities. It's, yeah.
Designed, just to jump in on that one, on Darryl here, so the system is designed to be fully automated on that one, and everything we do is site-specific, down to the building. On our national clients, it comes down to the building on skills retention as well, whether it's applying to 3745 or to a different legislation in different states. The legislation is linked or applied to that building. And wherever the building is, and for CQU that's an important part, giving their national on that one. Different buildings could have different retention on that one, and the system would send on the reminder according to the legislation. It's our job, when we've got people in the office, even though the path is automated, to apply changes in the legislation as part of the service that we do provide to each of the buildings and to the reminders as well. But imagine it's building or state specific or territory specific, and the reminders go out for that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give a hand to Darryl. Right, that concludes our members' presentation for this afternoon. Lunch is served from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And if you are participating in field visits, please be at the Crown Towers reception by 1 o'clock. enjoy your lunch.